3 days after I buried my husband, his billionaire boss called me before sunrise and said, "Mrs. Donovan, I found something in Mark's office. Come alone." I was still wearing Mark's wedding ring on a chain around my neck because my fingers had swollen from crying. I was still sleeping on his side of the bed because the pillow smelled like cedar soap and coffee. I was still answering sympathy messages with one word at a time because whole sentences felt too heavy. So when Victor Hart lowered his voice and said, "Do not tell your daughter," my blood turned cold. I asked him why. He breathed into the phone for a moment, slow and careful, like a man choosing which lie would hurt less. Then he whispered, "Because Emma may already know." That was the first moment I understood that my husband had not left me with grief. He had left me with a war. My name is Claire Donovan. I live outside Savannah, Georgia, in a blue house with white shutters, one crooked porch step, and a lemon tree mark planted the year our daughter was born. For 27 years, I believed my life was ordinary. Not perfect, not rich, not special, but honest. Mark worked numbers. I worked at the county library. Our daughter, Emma, grew up smart and stubborn. With her father's serious eyes and my habit of pretending everything was fine until it almost killed me. Mark was 51 when he died. The police called it an accident. A rainy Thursday night, a dark road near the river. His truck went through a guardrail and dropped into a drainage ditch. They said he must have lost control. They said maybe he was tired. They said the water rose fast. But my husband had driven that road every week for 15 years. He checked tire pressure before a grocery run. He did not speed. He did not text while driving. He did not take risks unless someone he loved was in danger. At the funeral, Victor Hart stood near the back of the church in a charcoal suit that probably cost more than my car. He owned Hartwell Meridian, one of the largest real estate and construction firms in the Southeast. Mark had been his senior financial controller. That meant Mark knew where the money came from, where it went, and which doors had locks on them. Victor hugged me like a man posing for a photograph. His hands never fully touched my back. He said, "Your husband was loyal, not kind, not brilliant, not loved, loyal." At the time, I thought it was a strange word to use over a coffin. 3 days later, I understood. I drove to Hartwell Meridian's headquarters at 6:30 in the morning. The building rose over downtown Savannah like a glass blade. Even the lobby smelled expensive, like polished stone and cold flowers. Victor's assistant, Marlene, led me up in a private elevator. She had a tight smile and tired eyes. Victor's office covered the top corner of the building. Through the windows, the river looked harmless. On his desk sat a brown envelope, a white coffee mug, and Mark's old leather notebook. I almost stopped breathing. Mark had carried that notebook everywhere. He said he trusted paper more than machines because paper did not update itself in the middle of the night. "Where did you get that?" I asked. "In his office," Victor said. "Your husband was working on something he should have brought to me." "What kind of thing?" He tapped the envelope with one finger. "Before I give you this, I need to know what Mark told you." "Nothing." Victor studied my face. "That was the first lie I told him, and maybe the best one. Mark always brought work home, not files, not documents. He brought home silence. He brought home long showers at midnight. He brought home a locked jaw and a hand that sometimes shook when his phone buzzed. For 2 months before he died, he barely slept. He stood on the back porch whispering into his phone while the cicada screamed in the trees. He started checking the street before he let the dog out. He told me he was worried about Emma, but when I asked why, he said, "Not yet, Claire. Let me be wrong first." He was not wrong. Victor pushed the brown envelope toward me. Inside was a small brass key and one folded note. The note had Mark's handwriting on it. For Claire. Only Claire. My throat closed. Victor leaned forward. I found that taped underneath Mark's desk drawer. If you find anything else, bring it to me quietly. I can protect his name. Protect it from what? From whatever he did before he died. There it was. A threat dressed like kindness. I held the envelope against my chest. My husband's name is not yours to protect. Victor smiled. It was the kind of smile that had signed contracts, bought favors, and ruined men who thought truth was enough. Be careful, Claire. Grief can make people imagine enemies. I walked out with the key in my fist, so tight it cut my palm. When I got home, Emma was in my kitchen. She had a key to the house, but she had not used it much since moving into Mason Hart's condo downtown. Mason was Victor's son, and Emma's fiancé. He was handsome in the clean, expensive way of men who had never been told no. I went for a drive, I said. At 6 a.m. I couldn't sleep. Her eyes moved to my purse. Something inside me went still. Did someone call you? She asked. I thought of Victor's warning, because Emma may already know. No, I said. No one called. She nodded too fast. Mom. Mason says Dad was under pressure at work. He says there might be an investigation. He says Dad may have done things we do not understand. I laughed once. Not because it was funny, but because if I did not laugh, I would scream. Your father was the most honest person I ever knew. I know. Do you? Her face crumpled. Then her phone rang. She stepped into the hallway before answering. That was when I saw the bracelet on her wrist. Thin gold. New. Hanging from it was a tiny charm in the shape of a key. The same shape as the key in my purse. After Emma left, I locked every door in the house and opened Mark's note. It said only 6 words. Blue jay before sunrise. Trust Roth. Ruth was my older sister. She lived in Macon, 2 hours away, and had spent 30 years as a court reporter. Ruth had a voice like gravel and a memory like a bank vault. She never liked Victor Hart, though she had only met him once. I called her. She answered on the second ring. Claire, Mark left me something. The line went quiet. Then Ruth said, "Do not tell me on the phone." That was how I knew she had already known enough to be afraid. I drove to Macon that afternoon. Ruth pulled me inside her brick bungalow, locked the door, took my phone, turned it off, and put it inside a cookie tin. "What are you doing?" I asked. "Making sure your phone is not listening." Then she said, "Talk." I told her everything. Victor's call, the key, the note, Emma's strange questions. "You said the note," said Blue Jay before sunrise. "Yes." Blue Jay Diner. Outside Forsyth. "Your husband met me there 2 weeks before he died." My stomach dropped. "What did he tell you?" That he found a pattern in Hartwell's books. Money moved through land trusts, cleanup funds, and shell companies. He thought Victor was hiding illegal dumping and paying people to look away. He also thought someone was setting him up to take the fall. Why didn't he go to the police? He said local police would not be enough. Too many donations. Too many friends. He needed proof clean enough that money could not bury it. And Emma. Ruth looked at me for a long moment. He was worried her name was on some documents. No. He did not think she understood what she signed. But he thought Mason did. Ruth went to the hall closet and returned with a legal envelope wrapped in plastic. On the front, Mark had written my name. Inside was a bank deposit box number, a storage unit receipt, and a photograph. The photograph showed Mark beside Victor at a construction site. Behind them stood Mason and Emma at a groundbreaking ceremony for Hartwell's new Riverside luxury development. Emma wore a white dress and smiled like the world was finally opening for her. On the back, Mark had written, "She does not know where she is standing." I turned the photo over again. Behind Emma half, covered by a blue tarp, were rusty barrels stacked beside the riverbank. Mark had circled them in red ink. Underneath, he had written one word: poison. The next morning, Ruth came with me to the bank. She said I was too emotional to drive, which was rude and true. Inside the deposit box was a flash drive, a burner phone, a stack of printed emails, and one more note. "Claire, if you are reading this, I failed to come home. Do not blame yourself. Do not blame Emma before you know the truth. Victor is not the only danger. Find the red ledger. The red ledger knows who paid, who lied, and who killed Ellis Green." Ellis Green. I knew that name. A year earlier, a Hartwell site supervisor named Ellis Green had drowned in the river after a company Christmas party. Mark came home from the memorial quiet and pale. He said Ellis had been a decent man with 2 sons and no reason to drink near water. At the time, I thought Mark was grieving a coworker. Now I realized Ellis might have been the first warning. Ruth took me to her friend, Sam Keene, a retired federal investigator who lived on a farm and looked like he had been carved out of old fence posts. Sam plugged the flash drive into an old laptop with no internet connection. There were spreadsheets with land trust names, photos of barrels, bank transfers, scanned checks, internal emails, a timeline of Ellis Green's last months, and a folder named Emma. I could not open it at first. Ruth put her hand over mine and said, "Claire, look." Inside were documents Emma had signed after she and Mason got engaged. She thought they were investment papers for a small design company she wanted to start. Emma loved historic home restoration. Mason had promised to fund her dream, but the papers did more than create her company. They made her a trustee for 2 Hartwell land accounts. Her signature appeared under legal language about environmental remediation funds. I did not understand every word, but I understood Mark's note attached to the file. Mason gave her pretty paper. Victor gave her dirty money. My daughter had not knowingly betrayed her father. She had been used. For the first time since Victor's call, I cried from relief. Then Sam opened an audio recording. Mark's voice came through the speaker, low and tense. "I know about the barrels near the river. I know about Ellis. I know Emma's signature was used. I'm giving you one chance to fix this before I take it outside." Victor answered, smooth as glass. "You always were dramatic. I have copies. You have nothing I cannot explain." Then Mason spoke. "Mark, think of Emma. Think of Claire. Accidents happen when men panic." There was a long silence. Then Mark said, "Are you threatening my family?" Victor replied, "No. I am reminding you that families are fragile." The recording ended. I stood up so fast my chair fell backward. My husband had died in an accident. Now I knew the word accident could be a plan. We went to the storage unit after dark. That was Sam's idea. He said if Mark's things were still there, others might be looking too. Ruth brought a flashlight, pepper spray, and the calm expression of a woman who had once typed testimony during a murder trial while the defendant threw a chair. The brass key opened Unit 113. Inside were file boxes, a broken office chair, Christmas decorations from Hartwell Meridian, and a small safe. Sam opened it with a code Mark had hidden in the bank papers. Inside was the red ledger. Names, dates, payments, inspector initials, project codes, photos tucked between pages, notes in Mark's handwriting. It was not just a ledger. It was a map of corruption. Victor had paid county officials to ignore contaminated soil. He had moved waste from old industrial sites and buried it under future neighborhoods. He had used charity cleanup funds to wash bribe money. Ellis Green had discovered the dumping and tried to stop it. Then Ellis drowned. Mark had found Ellis's notes. Then Mark died. At the back of the ledger was a sealed envelope. On it, Mark had written for Emma, "When she is ready to hate me less." Inside was a letter. "My sweet Em, if you are reading this, it means I could not explain in person. I am sorry I shouted. I am sorry I made you feel judged when I was trying to protect you. Mason is not who you think he is. I do not say that because he has money. I say it because I followed the money. You signed papers you did not understand. That does not make you guilty. It makes you trusting. Please do not let shame make you loyal to people who used your dream as bait. I love you more than my own pride." Dad, I pressed the letter to my chest. Then a car door slammed outside. Sam switched off the flashlight. Through the thin metal wall, we heard voices. One man said, "Unit 1, 13. Another said, "Boss wants the ledger tonight." Then my phone rang. I had turned it back on because Emma kept calling. And a mother's weakness is always her child. The ringtone exploded in the dark like a gunshot. For 1 second, nobody moved. Then everything happened at once. Sam shoved a stack of boxes forward. Ruth sprayed one man in the face. I ran with the red ledger under my jacket. Another man grabbed my sleeve. I twisted away, fell against the wall, and heard fabric tear. We ran. For 10 minutes, a black SUV followed us through back roads close enough that I could see its grill in my mirror. Ruth called 911, but Sam said, "Not local," and took the phone. He gave directions to a state patrol contact he trusted. We reached a gas station near the highway, just as blue lights appeared behind us. The SUV turned off and vanished. I sat in the driver's seat shaking so hard I could not let go of the wheel. My phone buzzed again. Emma. This time I answered. "Mom," she said. Her voice sounded small. "Where are you?" I looked at the red ledger on the floorboard. "I am finding out why your father died." She went silent. Then she whispered, "Mason said you would say that." What else did Mason say? He said Dad stole from the company. He said if you found anything, you might misunderstand it. He said Victor wants to help us. Emma, listen to me. Your father left you a letter. A letter. Wes. A Mason's voice sounded in the background, muffled but sharp. "Who are you talking to?" Emma said. "My mom." Then the line went dead. The next day, Emma did not answer my calls. At noon, Victor called me. This time, his voice had no silk in it. "You have something that belongs to me." I sat at Ruth's kitchen table, with the red ledger in front of me, Sam across from me, and Ruth standing by the sink with a shotgun she claimed was mostly for snakes. "I have my husband's property," I said. "Claire, you do not understand the size of what you are touching." "I understand enough." "No, you do not. That ledger contains names of people who will not let a grieving librarian destroy them. Then, maybe they should have chosen honest work." He laughed softly. "You think this is a movie. You think you hand papers to the right person, and justice arrives in a clean suit. I built half that county. I funded campaigns, hospitals, school wings. People like me do not fall because widows get emotional. I looked at Mark's wedding ring on my chain. People like you fall because you believe everyone is for sale." His voice lowered. "Where is Emma, Claire?" My stomach dropped. "What did you do?" "Nothing. She is safe. For now. But she is very upset. Mason tells me she does not want to see you." "You tell Mason if he keeps my daughter from me." "You will what?" Victor asked. "Call the police. Show them stolen records. Explain why Mark copied confidential material before his fatal accident. I can still make him the villain. I can make Emma an accomplice. I can make you look unstable." My hand shook, but my voice did not. "You killed my husband." The line went silent. Then Victor said, "Prove it." He hung up. Those 2 words became the engine inside me. Prove it. Not mourn it. Not fear it. prove it. In the burner phone, Sam found texts from Ellis Green to Mark. Ellis had sent photos of barrels, GPS coordinates, and one message that made my hands go cold. If anything happens to me, Hart's driver Reese knows about the River Road. Victor's driver was Calvin Reese. I had seen him at the funeral, standing beside the black town car, eyes hidden behind sunglasses, even though the sky was cloudy. I went to his house alone. That was stupid. I know that now. But mothers and widows are dangerous, because grief leaves very little room for caution. A woman answered the door with a baby on her hip. She was maybe 35, with tired eyes. "Is Calvin home?" I asked. "My name is Claire Donovan." Her face changed. Not surprise. Fear. She stepped onto the porch and closed the door behind her. "You need to leave." "Did your husband kill mine?" Her eyes filled with tears so fast, I knew the answer before she spoke. "He said he did not know they would do it that way." "What way?" "They told Calvin to follow him. Scare him. Get him to pull over. But Mason called. Mason said Mark had copies, and Victor said copies do not matter if the man holding them is dead." I held the porch rail. "Calvin hit his truck." She nodded once. "Not hard enough to kill him," he said. "Just enough to push him off the road. He thought Mark would climb out. He was drunk when he told me. He kept saying he heard Mark pounding on the window." The world narrowed to a small buzzing point. Mark had been alive. My husband had been alive in that truck. Pounding on the window. The woman covered her mouth. "I am sorry. Do you have proof?" "I have kids." "So did Ellis Green," I said. "So do I." For a long moment, she did not move. Then she went inside and returned with a tiny memory card wrapped in foil. "Salvin kept the dash cam card, she whispered. "Insurance, in case Victor turned on him. Do not use my name." "What is your name?" "Angela." "Angela. Victor already used your family. Help me end this before he teaches your children that fear is normal." She cried quietly. The kind of crying women do when they have no safe place to fall apart. I drove straight back to Ruth. The dashcam video was the worst thing I have ever watched. It showed Mark's truck on the rainy road. It showed Reese's SUV following too close. It showed another car ahead, slowing down. Mark was boxed in. Then Mason's voice came through the dashcam audio because Reese had his phone connected to the vehicle. Mason said, "Do it before the bend." Reese said, "He could die." Mason said, "Then he should have minded his business." The SUV struck Mark's truck near the rear tire. Mark's truck slid, hit the guardrail, and dropped. Reese stopped. For 7 seconds, nobody spoke. Then Victor's voice came through the phone. "Leave," Reese whispered. "He is in the water," Victor said. "Leave." The video ended when the SUV drove away. I did not scream. I did not cry. I simply became quiet. Something inside me hardened into a shape I could use. Sam contacted federal agents that evening. They wanted everything. The ledger, the flash drive, the dashcam card, the burner phone, Ruth's statement, Angela's statement, if she would give it. But I was not done. Emma called at sunset. "Mom," she whispered. "Can you come get me?" I stood so fast the chair scraped backward. "Where are you?" "At Mason's condo. He is in the shower. I found Dad's letter in my email. He scheduled it before he died." "Mom, I am so sorry." Her voice broke. "I signed things. Mason said it was for my business. Dad tried to warn me, and I called him jealous. The night Dad died, Mason came home with blood on his cuff. He said he cut himself. I believed him. "Listen to me," I said. "Take your purse and leave now." "I can't. There is a guard downstairs." "Emma, I found something else. Mason has Dad's watch." For a moment, I could not speak. Mark's watch had not been recovered from the crash. It was a silver watch I gave him on our 20th anniversary. It had an engraving on the back. Still choosing you. Mason had it. Emma, get out of that condo. I am trying. Then I heard a door open. Mason's voice said, give me the phone. The line went dead again. There was a Hartwell Meridian gala that night at the Bellwether Hotel. Victor had not canceled it after Mark's death because men like Victor considered grief a scheduling problem. The gala was for the Hartwell Foundation, raising money for river restoration. The same river where they had buried poison. The same river where Ellis died. The same river that took my husband. Victor would be there. Mason would be there. Half the county's powerful people would be there. Sam said the federal agents were not ready to move publicly. I said, then I will make them ready. Mark had backed up files in one more place. I knew because of something he once said when our home computer died. A safe copy is not safe if it is beside the first copy. He had made a public-facing presentation. Not for police, not for lawyers, for people. Simple charts, dates, names. A story anyone could understand. He had hidden it in the cloud under our shared recipe account, inside a folder labeled lemon pie. By 7 o'clock, I had Mark's presentation on a flash drive. I had the dashcam clip. I had Ellis Green's photos. I had Emma's signed documents showing how Mason used her. And I had a black dress Ruth said made me look like I was attending either a funeral or a trial. Good, I said. The Bellwether Hotel ballroom glowed with gold light. Crystal chandeliers, white roses, men in tuxedos, women in gowns. A string quartet playing near a fountain. At the front of the room, a giant screen showed Victor Hart's face beside the words, Rest, au revoir, restaurant, au fiduar. I almost laughed. Victor saw me from across the ballroom. For the first time since I met him, he looked surprised. Then he smiled and came toward me with Mason at his side. Mason was wearing Mark's watch. I saw it before I saw Emma. Silver band, dark face. My anniversary gift on the wrist of the man who ordered my husband's death. Victor kissed the air near my cheek. Claire, how brave of you. Mason smiled. Mrs. Donovan. Emma is resting upstairs. I looked at the watch. That belongs to my husband. Mason glanced down, then back up. I bought it vintage. No, I said. You stole it from a dead man. His smile disappeared. Victor touched my elbow. This is not the place. I looked around the ballroom. Oh, Victor. This is exactly the place. I walked past him before he could stop me. At the stage, a young event coordinator tried to block me. I told her I was presenting the memorial video for Mark Donovan, a loyal Hartwell employee. She looked confused, then embarrassed. Then let me pass because grief makes people uncomfortable and polite. The microphone was live. My voice shook for the first sentence. My name is Claire Donovan. My husband, Mark, worked for Hartwell Meridian for 15 years. 3 days ago, I buried him. The room quieted. Victor started moving toward the stage. I continued. Tonight, this foundation asks you to give money to restore the river. Before you do, you should know what Hartwell Meridian put in it. The screen behind me changed. Mark's first slide appeared. Photos of rusted barrels near the riverbank. People gasped softly. Victor shouted, "Turn that off." No one moved fast enough. The next slide showed bank transfers. Then land trusts. Then inspector payments. Then Ellis Green's name and photograph. I did not explain every number. I used Mark's simple words. This is dirty money. This is buried waste. This is the name of the man who found it before my husband did. Ellis Green drowned after trying to report it. A mason reached the stage stairs. Then the screen changed again. The dashcam video began. Rain on glass. Mark's truck. The bend in the road. Mason's voice filled the ballroom. Do it before the bend. The room went still in a way I will never forget. Reese's voice said, "He could die." Amazon's voice answered, "Then he should have minded his business." Emma screamed. I found her near the side entrance, held by a security guard who suddenly let go as if her grief had burned him. She ran toward the stage, but Ruth appeared from nowhere and caught her in her arms. On the screen, Mark's truck went through the guardrail. Victor's voice came through the speakers. "Leave." The video froze on the water. I turned back to the room. "That was my husband," I said. "That was Mark Donovan. He was not confused. He was not guilty. He was murdered because he found the truth." Federal agents entered from the back. Then more came in from the side doors. Sam had not told me they would come that fast. Maybe he did not know. Maybe he had always known. Victor tried to leave through the kitchen. Marlene, his tired assistant, stepped into his path. Mason ran toward the stairs and got tackled by an off-duty state trooper in a tuxedo. Mark would have enjoyed that part. Victor did not run. Men like him think running makes them look guilty. He stood very straight while the agents approached. He looked at me with pure hatred. "You stupid woman," he said. The microphone was still live. Everyone heard him. I smiled for the first time in days. "No, Victor. I am the widow you underestimated." After the arrests, I found Emma outside the hotel under the awning. Rain had started again. She was barefoot, holding her heels in one hand and Mark's letter in the other. Mason had given her the letter back before the gala, probably hoping it would scare her into obedience. Instead, it saved her. She looked at me like she expected punishment. "Mom," she said. I should have believed him. I wanted to say yes. I wanted to say she had broken her father's heart. I wanted to say I had needed her, and she had chosen a rich liar with perfect teeth. But then I saw her wrist. The gold bracelet was gone. In its place, she held Mark's watch. "They took it from Mason," she said. "The agent gave it to me." She held it out. "I still choosing you." Those words hit me harder than the rain. Emma started crying. "I was so stupid." "No," I said. "You warned me." "Your father warned you." I called him jealous. "I knew you were scared to be ordinary," I said. "He knew because he was scared too." She looked at me through tears. "Dad was scared. All brave people are." Then I pulled my daughter into my arms. For a moment, she fought it. Not because she did not want comfort, but because shame makes love feel undeserved. I held on anyway. The months after that were not clean or easy. People think justice is the ending, but sometimes justice is only the beginning of another kind of pain. Angela Reese testified. Calvin Reese made a deal and told the truth about the crash, Ellis, and the threats. I did not forgive him. Maybe someday God can handle that. I am not God, and I am tired of women being told forgiveness is our final job. Victor and Mason turned on each other before trial ended. Victor claimed Mason acted alone. Mason claimed Victor controlled everything. They tore each other apart with the same mouths they had used to threaten my family. Victor received life in prison for his role in Mark's death and Ellis Green's death. Mason received a long sentence too. Not life, but long enough that his hair will be gray before he breathes free air again. Outside the courthouse, reporters shouted questions. "Mrs. Donovan, do you feel justice was served?" "Mrs. Donovan, what would your husband say?" "Mrs. Donovan, do you forgive Victor Hart?" I stopped at the last question. Emma squeezed my hand. I looked into the cameras. "No," I said. "I do not forgive him. But I am done carrying him. For the first time since Mark died, I cooked dinner. Nothing fancy. Tomato soup and grilled cheese, because that was what Mark made whenever life felt too big. Emma set the table for 3 by mistake. When she realized it, she froze. I took the third plate and placed it in the cabinet. Not tonight, I said gently. We ate in quiet, later. Emma went upstairs to sleep in her old room. I stayed in the kitchen with Mark's watch, his wedding ring, and the copy of the red ledger the court returned to me after trial. Before Mark died, I thought power looked like Victor Hart's building, his money, and his name on hospital wings. After Mark died, I learned power can also look like a hidden note in a leather notebook. A sister who says, "Not on the phone." A frightened woman on a porch handing over a memory card. An assistant stepping in front of a billionaire. A daughter reading her father's letter and choosing truth before it is too late. And a widow standing under bright lights, telling the world what powerful men buried in the dark. The next morning, I drove to the cemetery. I brought coffee because Mark always said cemetery flowers were for the living, but coffee was honest. I sat beside his grave and told him everything. The trial. Emma. Angela. Ellis's widow. The lemon tree. "I am angry at you," I said. The wind moved through the grass. "You should have told me sooner. You should have let me stand beside you." A blue jay landed on the fence near the old oak tree. I laughed through tears. Very funny. I sat there until the coffee went cold. Then I put his watch in my pocket and stood. For the first time, leaving the cemetery did not feel like leaving him. It felt like carrying him properly. Emma was waiting on the porch when I got home. She had a basket of lemons beside her and flour on her cheek. "I tried to make Dad's lemon pie," she said. "Did it work?" "I think I made lemon soup with crust." "That sounds exactly like your father's first attempt." We spent the afternoon fixing the pie. We argued about sugar. We laughed when the crust fell apart. We cried when Emma found Mark's old apron hanging in the pantry. Healing did not arrive like thunder. It came in small sounds. A knife cutting lemons, a daughter washing dishes, a porch step being repaired, a house learning how to breathe again. Emma rebuilt her design business from scratch. No heart money, no mason, no shortcuts. She restored old homes for families who wanted to keep their history instead of selling it to developers. On the wall of her little office, she hung a framed copy of Mark's letter. Under it, she added one line in her own handwriting. "Trust is not blind when it learns to see." Every Sunday, she came for dinner. Sometimes we talked about Mark. Sometimes we did not. Both were forms of love. That was the ending I had wanted most. Not Victor in prison. Not Mason exposed. Not headlines or apologies or public praise. Just my daughter beside me in the kitchen, and the silence between us no longer filled with secrets. People still ask me if revenge healed me. The honest answer is no. Revenge did not bring Mark back. Justice did not warm his side of the bed. Truth did not erase the sound of his truck hitting water in my nightmares. But revenge gave the truth a voice. Justice gave the dead their names back, and love gave the living a road home. So if you are listening to this because someone powerful has hurt you, or someone you love left behind questions instead of answers, remember this. You do not have to be rich to fight back. You do not have to be loud to be dangerous. And you do not have to stop grieving before you start seeking the truth. My husband left me a key, a note, and a warning. Victor Hart thought those were small things. He forgot that every locked door in the world is opened by something small. He tried to bury my husband with his secrets, but all he really buried was himself.